The reigning champion is gone. The American goes through after eliminating him in the round of 16. Lots more fun to have here at the WCS Circuit Spring Championship. We are live once again this afternoon. It is currently 2:15 in the afternoon, or whatever time it is globally, I don't know. But here we are, ready to bring you, well, I don't know what time it is for everyone else, but for us here in Tor at the DreamHack Zowie Open, it is 2:15. Thank you to our sponsors.
4 p.m. everywhere else in the world.
Zowie, Razor,
5 o'clock somewhere.
G2A, Monster Energy, and Alienware. And a big shout out, of course, to Twitter. Because without Twitter, Nathanius wouldn't get mad. So include hashtag WCS and hashtag DHOpen on all those angry tweets. Welcome back to the desk, everybody.
I still like the global time. I like
global. There is
things only a host would say because they're trying to get through the rest of it. They're trying to they're focused on it. So
yeah,
global time.
There is like a UTC sort of like universal time thing. He could be just referencing that. You know, you don't
universal
have to put
time,
him down.
like stellar time.
No, there's a thing for it. There is a thing.
I'm really sorry that
Earth's time in relation to Mars.
See, the thing is, guys, I have to deal with the list of the chores. But more importantly, juggling you guys, which is difficult. Yeah. I would highly, please try it once. And I don't think you'll do it because I have in control Nathanius and Tasteless. And these guys, they talk a lot. They butt in.
He does have us.
They try to throw me off. They kick me under the table.
Right for sure.
It's difficult. Last game we just saw, Neve goes through. And Hydra is gone. Revenge has been completed. America must be proud. Please, you're all Americans.
Oh, yes. Of course.
I think it's how convincing Neve did it, too. 3-1 in map score, but just very, very strong, straight-up play. That last game was very one-sided, and it's just so cool because Neve yesterday was like, hey, you're going to face Hydra. How do you feel about that? And he's like, honestly, I played bad in the finals. I feel really confident. I usually beat him. And for most people, you'd kind of laugh and be like, what an arrogant foreigner. But then to come out and do this, it's like, actually, he was just being straight up real. He was just like, I'm going to beat him because I'm better.
Actually looked like the online matches that he's played against him where he's been able to take those big victories. And that's the experience. He was finally able to bring that, what he could do comfortably from his own home, with whatever else he had there to keep himself happy. Now he was able to do it on a big stage. It's got to be great. I think everyone's happy to see new talent actually moving forward.
I mean, is it safe to say that Neve's very close or getting close, especially, I mean, the last 3 or 4 tournaments he's performed excellently. Is he getting close to the, he has to win tournaments and so, but the Naniwa, the Studfano, he's rising very close up to these ranks.
The results have to be in alignment with the hype. Taking second at DreamHack is a really nice finish, but to be a Naniwa, to be a Stefano, to be those guys that won tournaments and beat the Koreans on the way, which he is beating the Koreans, but you need to win the tournament. You have to finish. So we're not there yet. It's
He's getting there, though, right?
He's definitely getting there. And overall, this tournament, we've had a ton of upsets, a ton of really close games, a lot that we didn't think were going to be close at all. So I'm really excited about the Neve narrative. I'm really curious to see how far he's actually going to get.
All right, let's check in with the bracket then and see exactly where we are. We have just a couple of round of 16 games left to go before we move in to the quarterfinals. The quarterfinals will be played today as well. So we've got 2 more games coming up. Next one is going to be Nerchio versus Scarlett, just down there to the bottom left of the bracket. Winner plays Neve later today. So super hype. Nathanius, any thoughts? Tasteless said there's been a lot of upsets. Anything to add?
It's hard to say because these are 2 players that go up against each other quite a bit in online cups and whatnot. Nerchio, of course, been going ham for quite a while. It's hard to say because that's going to be the next match. I guess we'll go into more details about it later.
Yeah. All right, so we have Nerchio versus Scarlett coming up next, as mentioned. Igers versus Violet later, and then all of the quarterfinals left to come. Starting to fill out a little bit. TBD is not a player, and he's not playing multiple times.
It's like the barcode, man.
It's
He's
to
everywhere.
be determined.
He's the barcode.
He's the barcode.
Let's talk about our
Yeah.
match then at hand. Our next game coming up. What is your initial thoughts when looking at this Zerg versus Zerg?
Well, as a Zerg expert, I have to say, you get Scarlett, you get Nerchio. Neither of these two players will play the boring standard styles all the time. Scarlett will throw out the early pools. Nerchio will throw out the early pools. They're both known for throwing in pretty crazy cheeses here and there.
Yeah.
And they're both pretty witty when it comes to the banter. I'm sure there's going to be some pregame words exchanged, and they're going to try to get in each other's heads a bit. I expect this to be an explosive series.
I think it's pretty cool that Scarlett spent some time in Korea again. I think that's going to definitely help her. It should be very close, but right now I'm leaning a little bit towards Scarlett. Just seeing Scarlett backstage, she seems very comfortable, very calm, at the same time focused as well. And Nerchio, I think also is somebody who definitely has a good game face going into a tournament. But I think from seeing how composed Scarlett is backstage, as well as the fact that she's been spending time in Korea, I might lean a little bit towards her.
Okay.
What are your thoughts here?
I don't know. I mean, we're all obviously not, like, Scarlett has been playing in Korea, tried to qualify for GSL and SSL, had pretty good runs there, did okay, but nothing like super mega impressive where she's like made it into both of them and we're like, oh my God, foreign play.
Yeah.
Before that, she's on a little bit of a break. She is an experienced tournament player, so she has that going for her, but of experienced tournament players, there's very few that have more experience than Nerchio. Nerchio, very active in that European scene where there's a lot of great ZvZ. I'm feeling a Nerchio win here. I hope for a good series. And also, we saw Scarlett ZvZ last night. It was the final match of the day, and it was pretty good. But she took some kind of crazy risks. Like she did this 13 pool pole drone spine crawler thing that was pretty easily defended and was a little bit uninspiring. I mean, I guess certain build orders that's pretty cool, but on a 1v1 map like that where the pathing is scout up pretty early, didn't seem like the best of choices. So I don't know. She's obviously a much smarter Zerg player than I am, but it gave me a feeling of, I think she's all over the place a little bit. Whereas Nerchio is like rock solid.
I think here that you have the classic European versus North American battle now. And last week in Austin, Europe struggled. Not as obviously high performances as North America, and this could be a pattern that we're starting to see. We've already lost so many of the top European players in this tournament. We could lose another one here to a North American.
Yeah, looking at the both of these players in terms of how this year has had a big impact on the way that players are improving in certain matchups, Nerchio gives me the same vibe I get when I look at a player like Huck coming into this tournament. He's been around for a while. He's had like the results previously, but he's not like is he going to become one of the top foreign players in this year? That's like a kind of thing. Can he actually get back up there? But I feel like Scarlett's got a lot more momentum coming into this.
You think you just compared Nerchio to Huck coming into this tournament?
Yeah, I did.
Oh my God. I've never more fervently disagreed with another columnist in my entire life. Like Nerchio is arguably, he's up there with Snoot as one of the most consistent, solid, and like accomplished. He has 1,300 WCS points already.
Yeah.
Huck does not. Huck is. Like, I love Chris. He's a teammate, man. But man.
Oh, I see.
Like Chris.
You thought I was trying to compliment Huck.
No, Nate, you're so wrong. I'm like, whoa. He's like, look, Nerchio's a fantastic Protoss player, and he loves his Dark Templar. So I think he's got a great chance in this PvZ. And we're all like, do we tell him? Do we tell him it's a ZvZ?
I'm gonna disagree with you.
At this point I hope you would, because with how wrong you were just moments ago, if you agree with me, then that's a really bad sign for me. No, Jeff. Nerchio is so consistent, so steady, and like his style is he'll take little risks.
He has not been picked as the top Zerg looking at tournaments in the last 2 years. Players like Snoot have been put way above him. He hasn't been put as the #1 guy. And I would stand
would
by.
Would you say he was number 2?
I would stand by my statement that
would you
this
say
year
he was
is
number
a chance
2?
for him to come back
Would
up.
he be the #2 European Zerg?
Also debatable to a degree.
But could you see how? So now the Chris. Never mind. We don't need to make this about how
I'm
wrong
saying
you are.
this is the year where he would have to do that.
I love
I
that
think
your
by the
point.
time this series is done, we're going to have a very strong idea of where
Glad
these
I'm not
guys,
casting this on you, Jeff.
where these two
All
are
right,
going to
damn
end
it.
up.
Game's begun tasteless.
Nick won't tell me I'm wrong. Go, Nick.
All right, guys, this is going to be casted by Nathanius and myself. Also, our first time casting. I've been casting with a lot of you guys for the first time in this tournament. Anyways, introducing our players in the upper left, in the red, it is Nerchio.
Good to be here with you, Tasteless.
Good to be here with
You're
you.
not as mean as In Control. And
I'm much nicer. I'm much nicer. Are you doing this one, or
I'll
am I
do
doing
this one.
Yeah, you
I
do
got
this one. All right.
In the bottom right, representing Canada, the Blue Zerg, she is Scarlett. Get some hype going.
Two hype casters put together. What could possibly go wrong, Nate?
I was so hyped for this ZvZ.
Yeah, man.
We were talking to Scarlett before this. She was surprisingly chill about all of it. She's actually
Yeah, she
sitting
really
with
was.
us. You think during the break the players are normally sitting in their booths like trying to warm up and stuff?
Or they're normally sitting with other players, but
Yeah.
she was actually just sitting and talking to us casually. So that was really interesting. I mean, we'll see how this series goes. Obviously, yesterday we saw Scarlett with a really impressive showing, a really deep understanding of this matchup. So I'm looking forward to this. Of course, Nerchio, obviously this is a guy you definitely can't count out.
Right.
So, yeah, let's go and see. With the games that we saw from Scarlett already at this event specifically, she did have some very strong aggressive builds. However, the games that she did play in a macro setting, she always won as well. So she seems to be a very well-rounded player.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to describe both of these players. You know, they were both on Team Acer, looking back past a year. Of course, they're kind of taking their separate ways. Scarlett practicing a lot in Korea, Nerchio going on to Team Neuronics, but they know a lot about each other. They've played a lot in those online leagues leading up to this, and they're both very active in those scenes. So they should have a good idea of how each other are all going to play as well, just because of that.
So we got the hatchery now finishing over here at Scarlett's expansion. So for the build, somewhat similar, although we do have an evolution chamber down here, tucked away in the back of Scarlett's main base here.
And 100 gas has been mined, a little bit over that now. So I'm curious, this is going to be fast carapace to deal with Lings. Okay, no, it's going to be melee. So Scarlett wants to have Lings that can just win straight up fights. The carapace allows you to survive a Baneling shot, but for ZvZ, it seems she wants to just deal a lot of damage with her forces.
Yeah, absolutely. And getting this in the back there, we're going to have to see how quickly, or even if Nerchio can actually scout that. Scarlett is pushing out to get the Lings of Nerchio back here, but she's going to have to be hyper vigilant over at the ramp to make sure Lings don't just spill in, because really, if you're going to do something like this and you're not using any of these structures to wall in, it's much, much better if they're completely in the dark. Also, over here, for Nerchio, we see a third base. Now, with the fact that Scarlett, it just sounded like I went through puberty there, with the fact that Scarlett actually might have a lot more strong forces early on. This could be problematic to not just Nerchio's third base, but the second as well.
Yeah, because what I'm thinking here is Nerchio fighting, like, it's usually the Banelings what it comes down to, right? So that's why the +1 attack kind of threw me off a little bit, as Scarlett is also moving into her lair. But taking that third base, extending himself as Nerchio spreads himself out, that opens up more places for those higher attack upgrade Zerglings to get in, and that alone is going to make them so much more effective in doing harass and shutting down expansions.
Good control there by Scarlett, actually driving Nerchio back here. Scarlett also spotting the two Banelings warping in over here. Not warping in, morphing in over here at the ramp. And she's going to have to back out in a second here. The Banelings do hatch, although Nerchio doesn't preemptively detonate them. Note the Queen walling over here down by the entrance to keep those Banelings and possible Lings scouting in here.
And she canceled the Spine Crawler that she was building earlier, just restarting it now. And of course, that Spine Crawler is a very important tool for zoning away those Banelings. If she can push the Banelings back, her Lings have the +1 attack in 7 seconds. That's going to be enough to destroy Nerchio's forces in any head-to-head fight.
Also, we have the Evolution Chamber just now finishing here for Nerchio. With that +1 attack, by the way, that we were keeping our eyes on.
That's dead.
Yeah, it's going to be an issue, Nathanius. I think those Lings are going to head up this direction here. And I don't know if Nerchio is going to be able to defend it that easily. Here come the Lings now. We don't see any Banelings in the vicinity just yet to help defend, and these are +1 Lings.
Yeah, I mean, in a head-to-head fight, I really feel like Scarlett's Lings should be able to take the better end of it unless you can get surrounded. But Nerchio's forces coming in. Of course, he has Defender's advantage, so he can reinforce a bit more quickly. Keep in mind, Scarlett's Spire Fire is starting up behind this. Okay, the Banelings show up. That should be enough to save this hatchery. Really smart of Nerchio to move back when he did.
Yeah, very nicely done there by him. But the Ling attacks are not done yet. Up the ramp, Scarlett Lings go, headed towards the main. Now trying to come over here, possibly assassinate the Queen as well as taking out some drones. Looks like the Queen will be safe. However, 3 drones do go down.
Yeah, 3 drones picked off. That Queen will die as well. Lings trying to get to the third base. We have Banelings mixed in with these to push the Lings of Nerchio back. So the Zerglings are doing everything that they possibly can. Those Banelings just dancing about, trying to zone away. Only 3 drones killed total. Scarlett still does not yet have a third hatchery on production.
Yeah, very important to note that. Also, however, the third base of Nerchio has not really been mined from. So he owns the territory, but he's not, reaping the benefits of it just yet.
And I'm trying to think about what he can do at that third base if he gets caught off guard by the Mutalisks. Does Nerchio even have a lair that can help deal with this? I don't think so. So the tech is definitely lacking. There's nothing that can really fight against Mutalisks for him. There's no creep spread to get Queens from his natural or his main to that third either.
Yeah, that is definitely something we're going to have to watch for. By the way, the Mutas are starting up just now. Only 3, though, and that's primarily because Scarlett was focusing heavily on getting a lot of Lings and Banelings there, so she didn't bank up.
More upgrades, too. She's getting the +2 melee. True. She's getting the +1 flyer attacks, and the lair's just now starting for Nerchio, so he is very far away from having anything like Infestors, Hydralisks, or his own Mutas.
Now, one important thing to note is when you see a disjointed third base from the second base, and the player who's being aggro, in this case Scarlett, is getting Lings and Mutas, you can actually choose where you want to attack. You can decide, okay, is the third too well defended? Well, then I'll go into the natural. I'll go into the second instead. And it's going to be a lot of juggling here for Nerchio to try to keep everything safe without really any anti-air that's not static. I know Queens can move a little bit, but not really between these bases. So that's something important that Nerchio is going to have to calculate very well here.
He needs the creep spread between his expansions so that he can more easily move the defenses around. So that Baneling morph is going to be denied here. Some of them moving around. The Mutalisks are coming in. There's not a crazy number of Mutalisks just yet. They've been hitting up some of these overlords that are out on the map, sniping the Banelings. This allows for better upgraded Lings once that +2 kicks in to just ravage these forces in head-to-head fights. I actually really like that. Focus on the Banelings. Let the Lings come back into the fray.
Okay, the Mutas are now going to take out the Overlords, and this is going to be annoying for Nerchio, not having the vision here. This is pretty standard for one player getting Mutas, the other one not getting Mutas yet, but that makes the element of surprise with Lings and Mutas a lot stronger up here.
That Baneling focus fire is still really nice picking those off, and of course that means the larva to rebuild those Overlords isn't going into units, which Scarlett can also try to take advantage of. Some Lings are going to swing around towards that third base of Scarlett. It's not completely ready yet, so it's a little bit exposed, a little bit vulnerable. +2 melee is so close to finishing, though.
And the Mutas now coming up here, and we're about 10 seconds away from that melee attack. Come in. There are Lings down here at the bottom coming in.
Oh, the Baneling, what are you doing?
No!
Gets all the Lings!
Beautiful!
Infestation Pit finishing at the same time back home for Nerchio. 2 Infestors are on the way, but this is so crucial now as that +2 melee zone. If he can just prevent the Banelings from destroying all of her Lings, then with those +2, she should be able to just get in with the Muta support and destroy those Queens.
Yeah, that is going to be definitely an issue here. I think the only way that
Nerchio lands either.
Right. Now, if Nerchio can last here, the Infestors, if executed perfectly with the chain fungals, can take this out. But that's easier said than done, and obviously Scarlett's going to be cognizant of that going into this match.
And we can see the Mutalisks just being so annoying with the Glaive Worm bounce of their attack, grabbing those extractors. Nerchio needs those geysers so that he can continue to build those Infestors, get the anti-air up, and of course, moving into Hive, maybe he's even going to try to use something crazy like Viper Parasitic Bomb to kill those Mutas.
You know, it's possible, but Scarlett's actually going to expand again, as we see down here at the bottom. So that's going to be a long period of time where Nerchio might not be able to be an active actor on this map.
And these Banelings, super important. With a little bit of counter poking coming in from Nerchio, this can allow those Lings to get so much done here, as the Banelings are going to be added in a little bit more for Scarlett. Now, these Mutas can trade in a little bit against the Queens. Burning out those transfuses is super important as the Lings show up for Scarlett outside of Nerchio's base.
Okay, good escape there by Scarlett. I don't think she would be able to do too much damage coming up there like that. Nerchio does pull back the Infestors, knowing there's very important units. He cannot just have them too far out on the map. They will get sniped by the Mutas or maybe even the Lings.
Yeah, and I guess that +2 attack upgrade is a little bit offset as well. We have to note the Carapace did finish for Nerchio. I just realized this. So it's +2 attack versus 1/1, so it's effectively the same sort of setup. There's only one upgrade advantage.
Yeah, it's still a lead for one and not the other, but exactly. It's certainly not a factor in the game that Nerchio is entirely neglecting here.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? If Scarlett can get this hatchery, that would be huge.
Gotta watch that fungal, though. Those queens get up close. It could smell doom and gloom.
That was actually a really good play. I think a lesser player would have actually overextended with the mutas and possibly lost them, but also down here,
into the main.
Going into the main.
Sees the morphing hive. The queen's gonna get surrounded, and at the same time, Bailey's making it into the third base. Drones trying to run, but getting on top of them. 9 drones.
Whoa, 9 kills. And now Morling spilling in here. It looks like Scarlett should be able to clean this up, but already a total of 16 drones have been picked off.
And look at this. Ultralisk Cavern is close to finishing for Nerchio, so that is going to absolutely end this Zergling effectiveness in straight-up fights. They do huge amounts of damage, gets chitinous. That armor is so sweet, Tasteless.
Yeah, it's going to really nullify a lot of the upgrades that were going on early on for Scarlett over here. Nerchio staying busy here, although Scarlett definitely stifling some of these attacks. Although, as I say that, now we have another attack coming in here in 2 different locations.
Yeah, a couple lings into the natural, good amount of lings going into the main base. Of course, that queen count being limited means the larva production is also limited. Saves the queen in the natural, but 6 more drones get killed. Sees that the hive is finished. Sees the extra evolution chamber here that's being added in the back as Carapace is being researched. But look, chitinous plating is on the way. Plus 2 armor is almost done. Those ultralisks that Nerchio is going to have are going to be unkillable by Zerglings.
Oh, but also important to note, in the very north center, it looks like the mutas are actually able to take out this.
Oh, super close. Just 1 muta gets caught by that fungal. Transfuses are going to keep the hatchery alive for now as well. Very important to hold on to that economy as 3 ultralisks are coming out. 11 drones killed.
Also down here in the bottom center, Ling's attacking his hatchery. Scarlett coming here to try to defend. Coming in and now doing a surround and taking out these Lings. Both players keeping the top and the bottom bases alive, but just barely. Another attack over there, and they could be taken out with ease.
And the mutas seeing these ultralisks now. They don't have the chitinous yet, so the mutas are actually effective in dealing some damage to them, but there's still a lot that they could do here. They're going to try to get it on top of these forces. These ultras gripping through the Zerglings as they continue to spawn. Scarlett trying to get the counterattacks, trying to get some damage on it. She does have adrenal glands on the way for those Zerglings, but the Mutalisks alone are having a hard time finishing them all off.
Yeah, interesting choice here to send those ultras in. I mean,
no
obviously,
support.
It's a lot of gas, so if you end up losing that and it doesn't pay for itself, that's going to be an issue. We now have some infested Terrans being sprayed out here by Nerchio with a nice flank over here on the left side with the Lings to come in. The infested Terrans denying entry here from the mutas, or at least I should say delayed, but the hatchery goes down anyways.
The hatchery destroyed. Lings are trying to counterattack for Scarlett. Her adrenal glands is finishing, but her ultralisks are just coming out too late. She's getting +3 flyer attacks, down 45 supply against a Nerchio who's playing with ultralisks on the map with chitinous plating. They're going to be so much more difficult for Scarlett to stop.
Yeah, very interesting routes these 2 players win. If we look at the very start from Scarlett getting the attack upgrades early on, Nerchio staying back on 3 bases, and then, of course, Scarlett going for the Mutalisks, and then we have a delayed attack here from Scarlett with her own Ultralisks. It's been a very fascinating game.
Oh, that splash damage. Those drones better run. Whoa, getting quite low there. Okay, so the Mutalisks do come back to help deal with that. Kind of surprised Scarlett's invested so much into the Mutalisk attack upgrades, trying to use them as like anti-Ultralisk forces almost with that +3, maybe thinking about Broodlords in the long run. But on 3-base economy, I don't see how Scarlett's supposed to be able to produce the army that she needs to stop this.
I actually like what you said, because sometimes when Ultralisks come out into the game, Broodlords can be a pretty good counter to them. They don't get to get much movement done with that. But instead, it looks like over here for Nerchio, he's going for a very serious timing attack. Queens have been pulled, and Ultras are now barreling over here to the front. Nerchio has to be careful not to overextend with the Ultras and make sure that they can at least be covered by the Queens, so the Mutas can't do too much damage.
I love that. Even just that one defensive Ultra doing so much, but Nerchio's going to move it now towards the third base. Another 11 drones have been killed. The Queens and the Infestors can synergize to prevent those Mutalisks from killing the Ultralisks, as just these few drones barely able to mine. Infestors are going to come in, throwing their own infested Terrans, but Scarlett's Ultralisks will fall. Her natural falls, and Nerchio takes the game.
GG! That was a non-stop action game.
It was good.
The entire time. We barely had time to analyze that. We sounded like 2 auctioneers casting that game. There was so much going on. I think there wasn't any more than maybe 30 seconds where there wasn't a fight.
Yeah,
for most of that.
That was intense. A little bit of a look of distress, I'd say, on Scarlett's face. Definitely a game where I like the moves that she was making at the start, right? The really fast +1 melee. If you can survive that without dying because you're missing a couple gas for Banelings or something like that, usually it gives you the advantage that you need. And she made that play in the third. But you mentioned while Nerchio was being aggressive, he pulled back at the perfect time. And right as those Lings run to that hatchery, bringing the Banelings in too means, okay, you have +1 attack, but my Banelings Banelings will still one-shot you. The upgrades don't matter when you bring Banelings into the equation.
It's interesting as well. The timing that Nerchio had there at the very end was a great way to punish the delayed Ultralisks from Scarlett. Scarlett's trying to play catch-up, and she's doing a lot of counters with Lings, and that was killing a lot of drones for Nerchio. I mean, Nerchio was actually hurting quite a bit back at home. It was a little bit hard because there was so much action to keep track of who was ahead of drones at what point in time in the game, but definitely Scarlett was doing some great harass there, but ultimately when you send all the queens and the ultras forward like that, and they can soak up all that damage, they're covered with the infestors and everything else that Nerchio brought. That was a great way to close that out.
Yeah, it was just a really interesting set of decisions that Scarlett made around those, how late her own Ultralisks were. And as we can see, there's a little bit of Ultra Madness. Nerchio did throw a lot of Ultras straight into Scarlett's base, and it got awkward, but like, I haven't really seen so much of this. The focus on the attack upgrades for the Mutas just so that they can deal with the Ultralisks, and it was just really the toughest part with Scarlett holding together her economy because she had that fourth base just pressured so much.
It's kind of crazy when you look at it as well because, when you send Ultras in, that's a lot of resources.
Yeah, like those three Ultras, those first three were like, it's like, okay.
You spent a lot of money on this. You better make it work. And it's not like you're going to be in there with your Ultra and be like, oh, man, this isn't working. I better send my Ultra back home.
Yeah.
Probably not going to happen. So really good decision-making there from Nerchio. Nerchio definitely looking like he knows how to get to the end game and be in the right position. But anyways, we are about to start. We are actually, starting this match right now. So introducing our first player down here in the bottom left, it is Nerchio.
A very solid performance in game number one, going toe-to-toe against one of the top players from North America in the Northeast. She is Scarlett.
So if you're just now joining us, it is a 1-0 lead for Nerchio in this game. And by the way, the build's already deviating. A lot of times in ZvZ, we do have these mirror builds where we kind of parrot what you can see in the production tab. But although they're both going for hatcheries first, the hatchery locations are very different, and that can tell us a lot about what they might be doing here. Nerchio going for a little bit of a bolder move here, taking the hatchery in the front. Now, this does secure Nerchio's acquisition of the hatchery into the back of the base, whereas Scarlett is playing much safer at the start, although may have to deal with the burden of struggling to take the hatchery out in the open later on.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you get a couple of advantages and disadvantages. You can almost hide information by putting that hatchery out front, because in Zerg versus Zerg, maybe you're not sure if your opponent's going for the quick hatchery or not, but when your Overlord gets there outside the main base and you see that there's already a hatch there, you see the creep, then you have no idea when they're taking their third base, because you don't want to try to fly that Overlord all the way to the back. If you go up there and Lings aren't coming out, you can just safely assume, okay, well, my opponent's got that base back there unless they're pocketing Lings on one base.
Yeah, and
it doesn't really happen a lot.
That's what's kind of crazy, though, is because even the fear of that alone can be a problem. Just because you took that front base doesn't actually mean that you have to take the back base.
Exactly.
So, and at this level of play, that can actually be pretty huge.
So Baneley Nest is coming up for Nerchio at a pretty, actually feels pretty quick considering there's no Zergling speed coming in for him yet, whereas Scarlett's going straight up to her own Zergling speed. And usually we do see the Baneley Nest come in a bit after that, but that makes me wonder if he does want to get that fast third hatchery and just play around with slow Lings and Banes defensively.
Yeah, I think you might be right on that. Let's go ahead and see, because taking that base back there, as long as you have good positioning with the Banelings, Banelings, especially in ZvZ for defense, it's a lot less about how you control when the attack happens and a lot more about where you place them and can you detonate them at the right time, especially if you're going to rely on slow Lings or slow Banes just for starts to be safe.
I mean, we've seen it so many times. You put those just a Baneling or two on top of that ramp, and then you try to run Lings by, and it's like, okay, well, as long as they're there, you don't need Speedlings. If you can detonate them on time, you can prevent the attack. But that also means that if Scarlett having this faster Ling speed means she has a little bit more opportunity to throw a Ling in for scouting, maybe try to get a bit of map control, as she also gets her own Baneling Nest.
Yeah, Scarlett also now going on 3 bases, so this may be a little bit passive. There is the possibility of some attacks coming up over here, but we've also seen a very, very greedy play where they just both power up on drones and try to get to that layer tech.
This is the map for that, too.
Yeah, it really is. This is a map that if you want to stay back and get to mid-game and late-game units, you definitely can get away with it, and there's a lot of different ways to do that as well.
Yeah, Dust Tower is just so good. I mean, you can see that, right? Both players going straight into their layers, kind of respecting each other. The rush distance is relatively long. The 3 bases are super close together. Don't take a chance. So we saw from that first game, even with Nerchio able to get the lead towards the end, it was still very back and forth mid-game. I don't think either player wants to chance it this early on.
Yeah, I think you're basically right. By the way, Nate, this is our first time casting together.
Feels good, man.
It feels good, man.
Yeah.
Feels good, man. I thought we were just going to be talking about dank memes and anime up here, but these games have been pretty action-packed.
The games are so good.
The games just never slowed down, did they?
We don't need to fill too much here.
So we got Scouting Lings coming over here for Nerchio. We're going to see the defensive posturing of Scarlett, the setup here to see if she can deny. It looks like the Banelings are at the ramp, which is going to keep scouts out on that end, and Nerchio does decide to back off.
And that's one of my favorite things about these players, that they both play so volatile. Because we can see they're both going into the Spire, so it's going to be a bit of muta-on-muta action, which can get really crazy. But you always have to respect against either of these. And this is really important, this Zergling Scout getting in, because you see this. You know, some players like Violet, they'll try to sell you this sort of thing, like, yeah, I'm going for mutas just like you. Meanwhile, they're building 20 roaches. They're getting ready to go for a huge attack to kill you, which we saw him do, or at least I was able to see him do last night in his match against Jim Rising. But this is just going to be very straight up, muta versus muta. Maybe things are going to get weird. Who knows?
Well, let's talk about muta versus muta for a minute. So as far as upgrades go, if you're both going for Spire, it's basically been solved. This was figured out like early on in Brood War, but you want to get armor, air armor, because the mutas have
attacks.
Right, the glaives come out, and you can actually, be a lot safer against those glaives with the armor. Now, we have seen attack done, and if we do see attack taken, it means they're going to avoid ever fighting the mutas and instead try to win through harass. But that's a little bit risky.
Yeah.
We did see Scarlett do something like that, though, in the match that I casted yesterday. So let's see when these Spires get done, what the upgrades are going to be coming out of them.
And Scarlett's also a player who does like her Broodlords later on, so that attack upgrade can also benefit those.
Cast this again, because I want to see how this actually pans out, but this is going to be kind of cool. Armor, by the way, is being got for Nerchio. That's the more orthodox out by this, but the way that she plays it is pretty interesting. So she basically, not until she has fungal in the game does she fight muta versus muta.
Okay.
Basically, she flies around. It's also very important, by the way, she gets her mutas out as quickly as possible. She loses as little overlords as possible on the map because she has to try to track the movement of her opponent. But it's an interesting way to play. I'm really curious. I'm actually kind of excited I get to cast this again because I want to see how this actually pans out. But this is going to be kind of cool. Armor, by the way, is being got for Nerchio. That's the more orthodox approach.
He's going for the more standard approach to muta v muta. And he also seems to have a couple of his Mutalisks out earlier from how fast he took those 3 bases. So Scarlett pulling back with her Mutalisks. Is she going to go for a straight-up fight this early on? Yeah, they're just going to trade out here. The Mutalisk count favoring Nerchio a little bit.
Okay,
still.
Somebody's got something wrong here. This is very abnormal to see 2 mutas just go head-to-head. I don't know who counted a little bit quicker, and it looks like it was actually Nerchio. The targeting, the shift clicking is key here. Now, the mutas have been driven back, but the number of lings that are coming in here, there's no way this hatchery is going to stay alive.
Really good play from Nerchio, getting straight across the map with his Mutalisk count, and Scarlett just miscalculating her chances in a straight-up fight.
If you ever play ZvZ and your Spires got done at almost the same time and the 2 mutas go in, that means somebody counted incorrectly or miscalculated something.
Yeah, because if you really think about it, Scarlett with Defender's advantage, like her mutas are just coming from a closer place. They're coming from her expansions, so that just means that Nerchio had that many more Mutalisks that even with some rallying across the map, he could still win the fight.
And counted correctly the moment he glanced at them. So that was pretty impressive. Once again, the hatchery going to take a beating. Lynx coming in again. This is a very bad position for Scarlett, and this is not something you normally end up dealing with as long as you handled your mutas correctly early on. We see some trading of blows here. Queen comes in. That changes all the factors and forces Nerchio to back up. But it does look like Scarlett is going to finally have that 4th hatchery secure.
Yeah, that's super important, but just think about how much earlier Nerchio had it. He's already mining full saturation on the gases in that 4th base, but Scarlett's going in towards the infestation pitch. He's got pathogen glands on the way. Both players, by the way, that +1 attack and the +1 carapace for Nerchio are done. Really, she just needs to lock down this 4th. Nerchio gets a nice economic edge out of this, but let's see what he can do with it. Can he finish her off? He's got a lot of units out on the map.
Yeah, so if I saw that correctly, Nerchio is actually just staying with, getting a muscle air army. He just wants to be able to bully Scarlett around the map, where Scarlett's going for the tech. Okay, yeah, that's right. He's also getting attack in this case right now.
Yeah, so
now he's already got armor. And, well, yeah, Scarlett's now doing the opposite, getting the armor. They're both getting the other upgrades that they don't have.
The infestors are, I think, the most interesting part of this, because one fungal, even with slightly fewer mutas, can just completely turn everything around.
But what Nerchio, I believe, wants to do is actually break this base with the timing. I think he's going to try to dislodge the muta position with his attack up here, and then flood the entrance when the mutas have to come back, or the infestors have to come back. So he doesn't even want to let Scarlett get to that phase of the game, I think. And taking out the gas, by the way, muta versus muta, pretty big deal.
Yes, so these lings are just going to come straight out. Nerchio dives on top of Scarlett. It looked like maybe he was thinking about going for a flank or some sort of run by around, but now she really doesn't have a lot on the ground at all. So this definitely makes me nervous, Tasteless. There's a lot of lings, a lot of Banelings. The queens can kind of soak that up, but Scarlett needs those to defend against the Mutalisk if she gets a fungal.
And this is really cool. She's taken out another, Nerchio's taken out another gas here. Very nicely done there by Nerchio. Denying the gases is huge. This is one of the only matchups in the game where you ever want to try to snipe, anything that's mining gas. Like this, it's in the structure and not just the workers.
Oh, gets one of the fungals. A second fungal here could be so big, locking them in. Scarlett, she's ready to go in now. The mutas have lost most of their health, so hers will finally be able to take the fight that she was looking for to clean out the majority of Nerchio's air army.
That was very nicely done. I also love that Scarlett stayed back until the last fungal had been chucked in there. And then with the glaives, you clean up the mutas very easily. So muta count now is 11 to 19. And what's funny about that is Nerchio still has more mutas because there was so much gas taken out. There was so much more teching here. So even though she won that battle, she may still have lost the war.
And this counter from Nerchio, he's still being so active out on the map. As you pointed out earlier, denying those gases. He took another base on the top left. Nerchio's on 5 bases. Scarlett's still on 4. Look at that gas income. Looks so good.
This matchup is so funny because you'll get bases just for gas. Like, you don't even need the minerals. That's like a bonus that you can deal with later on. But if it's muta versus muta, gas is so important. And yeah, even though Nerchio lost that fight, he still has the greater muta number, so he can expand more freely. Scarlett, it's going to be much more complicated to get out on the map, especially with lings everywhere here from Nerchio. Even moving infestors with this, there's a lot of ways that Nerchio can booby trap the map. Now, attacking in like this over and over with these muta clumps and there's infestors is a little bit risky, but it looks like he wants to try to bait out possibly the mutas of Scarlett here and win a fight there.
That is so dangerous. One fungal there to force a fight against those mutas and prevent them from dancing around could be the key to victory, or at least the key to ending this, because I feel like Nerchio recognizes that he's got a very good position in this game. He's moving back up to Ultralisks like he did the last game. Scarlett's only just now getting that hive together.
I think she's going to try to end this. We have all the queens pulled. That's usually not something that's very easy to come back on.
And this Overlord just pooping creep to drop these spore crawlers too.
Yeah, he's actually setting up everything pretty perfectly to try to delay as much as possible and have these mutas just take a little bit more damage. But if nice fungal, hold up, nice fungal, two good fungals.
The queens are all able to fight at the same time. The mutas are coming in here for Scarlett as well. Lings flooding in, but I feel like the mutalisk count from Nerchio is still quite great for her to deal with. The numbers, is she leading? Yes, 21 mutas out of 10, so she's finally gotten the air advantage, Tasteless.
And with the queens actually out here on the map, I don't think that this base we have on
the
camera right here
of these queens coming in towards the 4th.
It's actually pretty crazy. This base is going to go down. I think Scarlett's going to have access to the upper base over here. Nerchio might lose this game very quickly in a matter of seconds due to a few good spells cast there from Scarlett.
Yeah, and he does have Ultralisks coming out, but these are not chitinous plating Ultras. Even with the splash damage that they do, the Lings can kind of do a little bit. The mutas should still be great. And as we see, the first Ultra immediately gets surrounded.
The Banelings are coming in here. We have this Queens pulled right now from Nerchio, but a big air presence right now from Scarlett. 25 mutas to 1, now 0 as Scarlett is pushing in. GG!
Bringing the series to a tie. Such an exciting ZvZ we've had here so far, Tasteless. Getting up to the Ultras, and Scarlett really contained there. It's crazy to think she's able to get such a good win off the back of those money fungals, considering that Nerchio was ahead effectively a base the entirety of that game.
That was really interesting. I'm actually learning a lot about ZvZ just watching Scarlett here. is actually so good with the fungals. He did it once, and Nerchio was still ahead, by the way.
Yeah.
Which goes to show you that Nerchio's approach is really, it's much more about powering, whereas Scarlett's approach is a lot more about technique. She just times that push out perfectly, and the backbone of both armies is still the mutas.
Yeah, and the most... Another thing I thought was really cool about it was as she was going ready to make that big push, she sent all her queens across map. I can't help but wonder if while Nerchio was putting on all that pressure, if he could have built an army that could just crush that and win the game, if he hadn't made that heavy investment to go to ultras so quickly. Because he got them out, but they were just after this attack was hitting. So if he hadn't invested in the ultras, if he hadn't invested in the ultraless cavern and that faster hive, would he have had the money he needed to hold that, keep his 5 bases together versus
it's hard to call. I mean, when you have muta versus muta, even if there's just one queen in the fight,
yeah, it helps a lot.
It helps a lot because of transfuse. Obviously, queens can hit air. When you have infestors with that, you really have to engage in a really weird way and actually delay that engage as much as possible. So here we're seeing the push coming up here. This looks like it was after the huge fungal. So this is sort of like...
finishing blows.
We're like watching a lion kind of like eat a rabbit here. This wasn't exactly the tactical play, but this is where he was basically dead. But yeah, you could see here when he pushes in, when she pushes in like that,
it's just trickling out ultras.
It's just the ultras don't have a lot of functionality, and there's still no real answer for the mutas.
Yeah.
In that point in time.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of queens, sure, but considering that Scarlett's queens were also able to contribute to that fight because there were no ultralisks,
right,
just made it that much easier because they're both able to use transfuse at that point. When you pull all your queens, the defender's advantage of queens is it's effectively eliminated. So.
Right. Yeah.
Just in super intense series. I guess Bly's going in, having a little bit of chat about ZvZ.
It's interesting because I thought Nerchio played really, really well for the majority of that game.
Yeah, he seemed to be super far ahead to me.
He knew how to tactically outmaneuver Scarlett. He went in there and sniped. I think it was 2 extractors. Yep. Which is huge, by the way.
You're also killing drones off the glaive bounces from that as well.
Yeah, and of course, then they have to waste another drone making an extractor, and that's delayed mining timing, and then you have less mutas, less infestors. So Nerchio set that up. I'm wondering if he could have repositioned himself or economized his assets differently to maybe be in a better spot when Scarlett was going to push out, because I know that Nerchio knew that it was going to be muta queen infestor push.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way I think Scarlett wins that necessarily.
She didn't really have the economy to switch things up at that point. Like, I feel like it was a great play by her. Maybe to Nerchio, it was like the only play, and he was just like, okay, if I can just maybe delay this push a bit more, get ultralisks out, then the queens aren't as effective because of the ultras. The banelings obviously aren't going to hurt the ultras. And then the zerglings, if you can chitinous, also won't do that much. But, that was then. This is now, it's tied 1-1.
Introducing our players in the bottom right, in the red, it is Nerchio!
Tied 1-1 against our Canadian Zerg player. In the bottom left, she is Scarlett!
So these two are evenly matched. That much is for sure. Let's see how they play this time around here. Now, I've been casting... I've casted all of Scarlett's games here so far at this tournament, so it's interesting to see that she is more reliant on this alternative Zerg style. We've seen it done before, so it's not like this is totally new to me, but I feel like generally when I cast Koreans more, they tend to just always get the armor play with it, where she seems to want to just get good fungals, and then with a +1 attack with the glaives, maybe connect that to ricochet off all the fungal mutas.
I like that you bring that up again, because if we think back to the last game, I asked myself, where did I really get to see that +1 attack give her some form of advantage, in a straight up fight? And I'm like, okay, well, I guess killing anything that's on the ground is going to be a bit easier. If Nerchio had played with something like roaches, obviously they start with armor, so the attack helps a lot. But in muta versus muta, I gotta have to agree with you. I didn't really see where it helped a tremendous amount. So much as the fungals were obviously much more important as far as tech investments go.
It's also possible, if I remember, I think the attack upgrade is just a little bit cheaper for the mutas. So it might be that she needs to balance out having enough mutas. It might be down
I think the attack's 100 and the carapace is 150.
I believe that's correct. So because you have that slightly cheaper attack upgrade, maybe you get out 1 extra muta, which is just enough to barely hold off and protect your 4th base. Because the other problem is when the mutas hatch, normally there's a little bit of extra minerals, so they also take the 4th base with that. And the 4th base on this map that they have to take that one that was out there in that position. I'm not sure. I mean, we're theory crafting hard here, but it's
Neither
very
of us are as
intriguing.
good Zerg players as either of these two.
Yeah, I could definitely agree to that. Let's take a look at what's in this game here. We got, you know, both players expanding here. It looks
very
to be
straightforward.
Yeah, mirrored build so far.
Yep, hatch first, straight into those queens, getting the Zergling speed. Both players still mining their gas, so the only difference that we're seeing, okay, this third base is going to be taken on the right side by Nerchio. A little bit faster than Scarlett seems to be going for hers, so that's the first real deviation we're seeing. No Baneling nests yet. Okay, there we go. Baneling nest now for Nerchio, and Scarlett going straight into lair. A little bit on the greedier side, Tasteless.
Yeah, this is definitely taking a deviation here. You know, in the last game we had, they mirrored each other pretty hard until, you know, the upgrades really started at the tech. So it's kind of cool that in this game, we're going to see, a quick layer here, and over here for Nerchio, a quick Baneling's nest. Now, Nerchio may opt, we still see some drones being made, but he may opt to actually start pumping a lot of lings and trying to attack here. Scarlett's Baneling nest, we can assume, is just for defensive purposes.
Yep.
And look at that, double Evo chamber.
So this usually says to me that it's like if you get this sort of setup and then you start the Roach Horn as after your lair starts, if you can line it up with like Roach speed and you get your 1-1. Of course, the Roach would benefit tremendously from upgrades, but I'm just really curious where Scarlett's going to go off this lair. Is it just straight Mutalisk Rush? I guess she's taking her other geysers, so maybe.
That looks like it's placed to be a Spire.
So you can't fit a Roach Horn there.
Can't fit a Roach Horn there, boys and girls. Okay,
Whoa,
so
maybe 1-1 Ling upgrades.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's look at the timing of everything here. The Spire is trucking along here, but really Scarlett can't do much until this Spire is done. I mean, her path is kind of set for the time being. Yep. Nerchio may start massing up a lot of lings. It's interesting.
I don't think
he's getting the +1 attack, so we already see the 10 lings on the way here. There's a chance that he can start to pressure Scarlett by actually breaking in before the Spire gets done. Now, Nerchio might not... Wait, I'm sorry. Did Nerchio scout the Scarlet Spire?
No, so that's what I was just thinking, because I like what you say, though, because it would be really good of him to try and pressure Scarlett here, because as soon as she gets those mutas out, they're going to be tremendously effective at mopping up any lings that are pushing and then just going across the map and counterattacking, because Nerchio's lair's only just started. Yeah,
he actually may just want to...
he's already got spores coming.
Try to... Because even if he doesn't see it, he can know the timing of this is correct. Now, important to note is that if you go... for instance, like 2-hatch mutas like Scarlett's doing, she's getting a third one here, but for now she has 2. If you're going 2-hatch muta and your opponent has 1-1 lings, you have to keep your mutas back to defend.
Yeah,
otherwise the 1-1 lings just die. Yeah,
being ahead 2 whole upgrades is going to be a significant edge here for Nerchio in any harassment.
So, well, harass isn't going to do that much if actually Nerchio is sacking or losing lings to those Banelings.
So he does get this ling, and now he knows pretty much everything that's going on. Didn't see anything like a Roach Warren follow-up. That's also very important. So Scarlett, just hardcore Mutalisks. 8 of them on the way, getting +1 attack as well.
And the rest of the larva will be spent on lings in this case, because Scarlett just needs to make sure that she has her third base, that it's secure, that she can defend anything else. And whoa, cool. Now, I wonder if Nerchio makes the Nidus because he lost so many lings there in the front and can't do much otherwise, or maybe this is just a strategy in general. But I like the idea of it, because one thing with the mutas, especially on this map, is you can cut off the lings when they're on the way over to your base. Yeah. So doing something like this is going to, having a Nidus network pop up, he might be able to throw Scarlett completely off.
Yeah, this is such a tense moment, because one of the ways that Zergs can deal with this is you just get enough Banelings to bust the Nidus as soon as it finishes, because if those queens pop out, not only they're going to obviously can transfuse each other, they can transfuse the Nidus as soon as they come out, and then once they're through and the Mutalisks can't stop Nerchio anymore, his Zerglings and Banelings will just win because they have 1-1 upgrades.
Now, where is he going to place the Nidus here?
That's a very important question. Is he going to try to go for this frontal assault outside the third or somewhere else?
Yeah, because, with mutas out, you can take out the Overlord, so it's like...
Okay, so it is on the way?
Yep.
Somewhere that Scarlett doesn't see it. That's the most important part. So it will finish, and Nerchio will be able to set up a forward position. Zergling's also getting into the main base. There's nothing here to defend.
And this is a very good move here by Nerchio to pull back the mutas here and start trying to take out some drones. We have 2 drones killed already, and the Nidus has now unleashed the queens. This is going to be a threat. Remember, this was started out as 2-hatch mutas, so there are not a ton of mutas coming out, which means queens are much more formidable.
Yep, there is not even 10 Mutalisks here for Scarlett, so she's going to immediately run back towards the Nidus. I mean, if she could kill that, that's going to delay the reinforcements, which is nice, but these queens are a-coming, and almost get one more of those mutas, just going to start another Nidus right in her face.
All right, we have the Lings now coming up here. Nerchio doing some damage. The Queens hitting the Mutas from a distance. The Mutas then pulled over to the left and trying to take out as many of these Lings in time.
Yeah, it's also really, really important. Of course, those Queens do benefit from the armor upgrade as well. The second Nidus has finished. More Lings are going to pour out. The Banelings and the Roaches coming in for Scarlett, trying to stop this assault, trying to stop this large attack. The Mutalisk still flying above. 4 of them, 3 of them remain. Only 2 Mutas left, and those Lings and Banes can't win on their own.
And it's so many Queens here. The Banelings are connecting, but the Roaches out here are going to be the other greater threat to the Queens right now. And this was actually a pretty well timed out Roach Warren. I'm not sure if Nerchio can keep pushing. We're going to have to see how quickly things are being produced through the Nidus, because you want those Queens in the bank to keep dishing out damage.
He's still heavily committed, though. The follow-up doesn't really seem to exist. I don't know what other tech Nerchio's put up behind this as the Nidus is shut down. He's barely ahead in drones. Most importantly, of course, that third base is still going up. And Scarlett, look, immediately back into Mutalisks.
Yeah, that was a really good play. I think a lesser player would have kept making mutas and panicked in that
Just
moment.
died.
But getting the Roaches out, that's what's important. And now Scarlett can seesaw between these different techs and try to take it from there. Nerchio getting a Spire right now in an attempt to try to catch up in tech.
Yeah, you know, I actually didn't even realize this hatchery wasn't finished off. It was just the drones at this third base. That's a huge boon for Scarlett moving forward. She's got the supply. Of course, a lot of that is in these Roaches, but the Roaches can hold off without the upgrades against the Zerglings. As long as the Roaches stay in good numbers, as Lynx around shouldn't be the biggest problem. Now, a couple of them are going to get inside of the main base. There's not much here. Queen is about to pop, but there's a lot of Lynx.
Yeah, just these few Lynx taking out some drones, keeping Scarlett forced into her side of the map in this position. But Scarlett, I think from here, she knows she just has to power up. I mean, we're looking at supplies that it's 122 to 91. And Scarlett knows that her time is actually coming where she can move out. She does have to be hyper vigilant because there is a threat of another Nidus network popping up somewhere. And really, at this point in time, Nerchio is going to have to rely on counterattacking and keeping Scarlett off of his side of the map. But I think coming up here, if Scarlett plays this right, she could win with a really good push unless Nerchio has an ace up his sleeve.
Yeah, another thing we need to consider, and I think in terms of that ace up the sleeve that you just mentioned, is that Nerchio has the Spire now. So he's trying to make that switch into Mutas. The Mutalisk count is non-existent for Scarlett. She only built a few just to kill Overlords pretty much. So she's not... It doesn't seem to be expecting that she'll be having an engagement against Mutalisk soon, but how much Roach damage can get done before the Mutalisk count is high enough? That's a lot of Roaches for Mutas to kill.
The thing is, if Nerchio tries to rely on Lings to defend this, the Banelings are going to obliterate them. So the Roaches can actually crack their way into the defenses here, and this is going to be interesting. Let's see how long Nerchio can hang on when there's this many Roaches and Banelings headed towards him.
Yeah, that's a lot of Roaches coming up. The Mutalisks are here, but like you said, those Lings, what are they going to do against this number of Banelings? Tasteless splashing against the Queens, and now also looking to get the drones as they try to run away towards the fourth base.
Beautiful plays here. So many drones taking so much damage here. The Roach is not done yet. Getting the Spire. Beautiful. Comes down now, hitting the drones over here inside of this expansion, and he can keep going right now. And of course, because Nerchio is so spread out right now, it's going to be very easy for Scarlett to keep sending Roaches to different positions. I don't know if Nerchio is going to be able to win this game of like whack-a-mole, trying to take out Roaches everywhere on the map.
And the other thing is Scarlett going for a Hydralisk and is going to set herself up for the anti-air counterattack.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, she still has her Spire with the upgrade advantage if she were to go back into Mutalisk. So while these Roaches eventually die, 24 drones are killed. Scarlett is now ahead. 11 workers total is 2 Lings, of course, are definitely a threat to these Roaches. They're cleaning up and looking for a counterattack, it seems.
Yeah, nicely done here by Nerchio, actually doing a decent job of actually pushing this attack back. But again, Nerchio's economy is in shambles back. There's so much damage dished out. We do have, though, a serious Nerchio army flying in here right now. So many Mutas. Will there be enough Hydras out in time here?
I don't even think we have any Hydras out yet for Scarlett.
Yeah,
holding this off
apparently not.
I mean, close to impossible. The Queens are doing their best with the transfuses. There's a lot of energy here. That's super important. I feel like the anti-air is where things could really go wrong for Scarlett. Of course, those 2 Lings are definitely not something that she wants to fight either.
You can see, actually, Scarlett had some pretty good game understanding of how many Mutas she could hold off there with just the Queens she had alone, and actually delayed and got the Hydras out. They're coming out now a little bit staggered, but still, Scarlett didn't take that much damage from the counterattack from Nerchio, so very nicely done.
And she's also moving into the +2 ranged upgrades. That's going to allow these forces to trade better against the Zerglings. You know, these have been some really, really good Zergling harass just because of that upgrade lead. And it's kind of keeping Scarlett locked inside of her base. Even though the supplies close, everything looks okay. Nerchio has more money to work with because of that 4th hatch. As our observer's pointing out, Scarlett does not.
This is such a good game to see between these two. I love how they've been switching up their techs and countering each other and really taking whatever tools they have and trying to use that to get to their advantage.
This really has been a really even, close match.
It really has been. I mean,
it's a treat of a ZvZ to watch, to cast, man.
Yeah, these two are a really good match. So oddly enough, from how this game started to how we're at right here, it's actually Nerchio with air dominance flying around the map. But then again, we have seen Scarlett in previous games really succeed when she allows her opponents or forces her opponents to tech into mutas.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the great, the beautiful Fungals tasteless on that last game on Dust Towers, where she was able to secure victory off the back of those alone by snatching all those mutas in her main base. And then, of course, later when she made the Doom push with all of her queens. It's 21 mutas. Scarlett has the Infestors. Scarlett has 11 Hydralisks as well. So really, I think just one money Fungal could be all that she needs to reset the board once again, just like on the last game.
You know, Nate, you might be right. We're going to have to see. It almost seems like from the unit composition that Scarlett's getting, she wants to do another push similar to what we saw before in the hopes that, although Nerchio seems to be tactically able to manipulate Scarlett's position to stay inside of her turf on the map, Scarlett has shown that she has these pretty scary pushes that come in here and can do a lot of damage. Now, clearly Nerchio's up to something because he's morphing these Banelings just out here, and we also see Ultralist tech coming into play.
I really like this because it's going to force the Fungal to get used on the Banelings, or they might be able to hit her Hydralisks. And in either scenario, if the Mutas can get in and fight this army directly without being Fungaled, they should be able to get a tremendous amount of damage done. Those Hydras are super squishy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, Nate. And, especially with these Banelings, this number, if the angling of the connections is right. And, of course, for Nerchio, guys, this Ling attack, it costs him nothing. If he loses the Lings, it's fine. If he takes out any of Scarlett's hatcheries or drones, it's huge. I think Nerchio is going to try to actually surround this attack right here.
First Fungal completely whiffs, and moving forward, almost committing to the engagement there. Of course, the Banelings are the key unit, as you mentioned. That splash damage is all that Nerchio really needs, and Scarlett doesn't really have a lot of time to work with. Look, we got Ultralisks coming out and Adrenal Glands.
Yeah, actually, what Nerchio's doing is he's acting like he's going to engage, trying to bait out a Fungal or two, and then backing up in the hopes that there will be wasted Fungals or that Scarlett would try to position herself. And all that Nerchio needs to do now is try to tech up to as many Ultras as possible. And I believe, did I see this correctly? Was there a Nidus network being made for Scarlett?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
She's
that's
one.
right.
So, I mean, if she can't push across the map slowly, I guess she can try to teleport across the map, though she is still on Nerchio's creep.
I think she's going to hold this position out here, let the Nidus finish, and then have a push position.
Use it to reinforce.
Yeah, use this as a reinforce because...
Hydra's dooming pretty slow off creep. That's
yeah, so I think that's the game plan here. However, if I were Nerchio, I might be fairly comfortable with this.
One good Fungal on quite a few of these Mutalisks. Throws a second Fungal out, clearing these, of course, very quickly with those Hydralisks. A Nidus is building. Where is it? Where's the Nidus going? It just finished.
There it is.
Okay,
there it is.
so there's right next to the army.
It's important to note that, unlike most times when you trade armies and fights, if you do good Niduses, good Fungals on Mutas, it's not a trade. You just don't lose basically anything. Anyways, here comes a big attack. Ultras Banes coming in here just around.
Great Fungal on the Banelings, keeping them back, but they still get on top, and the Ultralists sweep the army. GG.
GG, that was sick. I like
There's a good attempt, but that concave, Banelings spreading out all across the north side, Ultralists. I mean, Ultralists enough, that's going to destroy both
But the Banelings, too,
Hydras.
connecting with the Hydras, that's so much damage in that area. And Nerchio did, I think a really beautiful job of delaying the push overall. Whenever you see these timing attacks where they have X amount of any unit, it doesn't matter what the matchup is, and they're coming towards you, you want to try to make them set up to get into a fight or get them into a position where they're trying to get ready to fight before they actually get to your important expansions and attacks. So he was staying back. Scarlett backs up, hoping to get in a better position. Eventually, Scarlett's waiting on that Nidus network to come out. But if you notice, Nerchio had this arc that was like completely around the army of Scarlett.
And she was also pushing onto his creep, too. She didn't have any overseers there, so with the creep tumors, Nerchio's like, okay, I can see your whole army. I know exactly how I want to position myself against this, and that's a really big boost to his defense.
And that was like nearly like 360 degrees of being hit from that angle. Hydras are never, ever going to be good in that position. I mean, when you have, for instance, a ton of Hydras, you want to face in like a little valley or someplace where only the ones in the front can take damage. And especially for melee, they can't all connect in there.
If that whole army tries to attack from one angle, you fungal the Banelings, and then before the Banelings die, they'll actually block the pathing of something like the Ultralisks. If you can fight on a choke point, like say for example, the ramp by the third base where Scarlett was able to get a really good engagement previously against the Queen Baneling setup. But man, what a series that we've had. Shout out to the 1-1 Ling opening from Nerchio.
It was really interesting.
So frustrating.
Let's actually talk about that too. That was cool because we saw the two. Well, here's this huge attack that Nerchio attempted to do, and then Scarlett did something kind of similar to this much later on in a pretty crazy way. But Nerchio was trying to push in here. Scarlett actually kept the proper Roach production, didn't get greedy and try to get her own Mutalisks, knowing that the Roaches can pretty much, especially because there's smaller numbers coming out of the Nidus. You know, when you have a Nidus, normally the biggest fight is right when the Nidus mouth pops out and it finishes and a bunch of units come out and attack. But once you start to win that fight, Roaches always are fine in small fights.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're just going to chew up every single unit as it comes out of the Nidus. Comes
Queen
out one by
or
one.
Ling or other Roach, you're going to win that fight. So that was really well done by her. But it was the later counterattack. Nerchio really knew how to transition and segue his tech so that he was just in a better position, and he kind of forced Scarlett into this push that he eventually crushed.
It's really great best of 5 we've had going on here so far, and we are loaded into the next map, Core Hall Carnage Knockout, Tasteless.
Pretty crazy stuff, man. Introducing our first player, up 2-1 in the red. He is Nerchio.
Playing some great StarCraft 2 in a very even ZvZ series against this lady in the Northwest. She is Scarlett.
Scarlett is going for a quick pull and a quick gas.
This is just one of those maps where I kind of expected at least one of these players to do something crazy. You almost, let's be fair. This map is played so rarely, you expect everyone to do something crazy on it. You don't get a lot of practice time
It's just
here.
not a popular map, and so you end up with a lot of weird stuff that can happen. Now Scarlett's going for a quick pull, although Nerchio's spawning pool is not like that far behind.
Scarlett's also gotten the super fast gas. So Nerchio's like, okay, I'm gonna get a quick pool. Maybe I'll need it to defend, but I'm gonna go for a fast hatchery. Whereas Scarlett's like, I mean, I got my Ling speed already on the way.
Yeah,
a minute deep into this game.
And she actually stopped mining gas for that too. So it's just gonna be speedlings versus non-speedlings. Yeah, banelings, at least so far, are not something in the foreseeable future. Now, Nerchio is getting gas, and in a little bit here, if he wants to, and that's what we got to look for, he can get his own. He can get his own gas. His own Ling speed rather. But I don't know if he's going to opt for that. So we're going to know it in just a little bit here as the gas builds up, how strong of the Ling pressure can possibly be here from Scarlett.
That's I think, the most important thing. It's also interesting if Nerchio can hold off against the first attack or so, he'll then have the option with any Lings, whether slow or fast that he may have. He can try to break down the rocks outside his natural, buy himself a little bit more time, and that, of course, 2,000 hit point rocks with 3 armor. Lings take a little while to get through them.
Right, absolutely. So coming out here on the map, we do see Scarlett on the move.
Ling speed finishing in just 10 seconds now.
T-minus 10 seconds, Nathanius.
It's happening.
It's happening. Let's see how Nerchio is going to do against this. Now, this is always a decision that any Zerg has to make when they're doing something like this is, do I want to go for the hatch or do I want to go for the main? In this case, it looks like Scarlett wants to surround the Lings that come out of the hatch like that, and then ideally put as much pressure on there as possible. Nerchio has to use the ramp here as a funnel to limit the number of Lings that can come in there.
Yeah, it's super scary for him, though, because if Scarlett can bait out one of the queens and get a surround on her, she's going to absolutely destroy that queen super quickly. And now, there he goes. He gets the surround. The first queen being targeted down, could possibly lose both, and that could spell the end if Nerchio can't even inject his hatcheries anymore.
Yep, the Lings are continuing to come in here. By the way, Scarlett did not slow down on the Ling production. And it looks like with the angling here, remember, these are Speedlings versus Slowlings. Speedlings always beat Slowlings. And notice that Scarlett's actually drawn. She's fished out some of the lings over to the right side so they can take damage without Nerchio's queen there to back up. But the spine crawler's done.
Yeah.
And it looks like this triggers the drones to start being made here by Scarlett.
Yeah, I think this is really important thing to keep in mind because she was behind just like by a couple of workers. Maybe she'll throw these lings in the main. That's super risky in case of a counter though, because Nerchio's speed is about to complete. And that spine crawler really putting in work. Look at the roach warren too. So Nerchio, with a lot of gas, he could, you know, get a couple roaches out, either some counter harass or maybe a big push. Scarlett now getting a baneling nest.
Yeah, Scarlett's going to get her own defensive baneling's nest. She has not actually mined that much gas. That was almost entirely drone-focused and ling-focused, so it was really a lot of mineral mining. And with this much gas banked up, I think Nerchio actually can do a counterattack with roaches and really bully Scarlett back.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing is whether he will add in a baneling nest of his own or if these are just going to be purely defensive roaches. He has an opportunity with that, but look at this. Even Scarlett's like, okay, well, I'll break down your cooling tower and just lock you inside of your base for a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah, and this is pretty smart because the ground game is going to go to Nerchio, but Nerchio is actually going to have these roaches coming out pretty quickly. He might be able to actually put some pressure here. Now, they're weakening up. Okay, now you can also abuse the bushes on this map too with Bane, so that's something else to definitely watch for.
And this is really interesting because those few lings go to the left side for Nerchio. They see the lings chasing them, but does he know about those banelings? It does seem it was just a defensive number of roaches made. So the scouting goes in here, sees Scarlett's roach warren, but those banelings, I believe they did finish around those bushes as you mentioned.
You know, I do wonder if he wants to well, let's see where the banelings go here.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit confused by this. Scarlett might want to try to counterattack with the banelings, or she might want to try to flank.
Too, they're actually like in a super awkward spot going up towards those rocks. By the way, Scarlett also brought her cooling towers to very low health, so she can just knock those rocks down whenever she decides to stop attacking so that she can drone up for a little bit. These lings are running around, but the roaches with the spine should be enough to defend pretty easily.
Yeah, I actually think everything should be fine. I think the game is just going to continue on. So destroying that does deny a good amount of access. I'm wondering if some of those banelings may have been a bad investment for Scarlett in the long run, since you don't normally want to make a ton of banelings until right before they're going to be used, because gas can always be spent somewhere a little bit better that'll get you further along in your tech and in your other production. But we'll see. That's kind of an interesting player by Scarlett. Again, this is not the most popular map, so I'm not sure if these strategies have been as tried and tested.
Yeah, people are going to do some weirder stuff. I'm inclined to agree with you, though, because if we look at it, Roach speed's on the way for Nerchio, +1 ranged attack for his roaches, and, you know, the lair obviously opens up plenty of other options, whereas Scarlett is only just now starting her lair. By the time her lair is done, Nerchio could have +1 attack, roach speed, and just be basically pushing to kill.
Yeah, I think this might be one of the more straightforward games here. I think that actually Nerchio should just have a solid push with his roaches, and Scarlett might not have enough.
Yeah, that third position is also just super vulnerable because of the spawns. Their thirds are basically just a hop, skip, and a jump away from each other.
So Scarlett backs up there from the pressure over in this place. This map is kind of like a maze that you can keep reinventing in a lot of ways. As far as where you can engage. Like it's an ever-changing labyrinth or something like that, because there's so many different ways to carve up the map to allow certain unit compositions to be strong, certain techs to be weak. So let's see as the game goes on. Now, Nerchio is just slightly ahead in supply and in workers, but definitely got a lot more of the tech part of this game out of the way. Scarlett did do some damage, just to go back to the start, with some of those lings early on. But, of course, Scarlett was using less workers in that whole process, and then made all those banelings that didn't actually do anything till later on.
Yeah, Scarlett's got a good number of Ravagers coming in now as well, moving up to about 4. She's got quite a few roaches. Actually kind of curious whatever happened to that lair tech that she was going for before. If she actually finished it, or she's just getting ready to go for a big all-in type attack. Because right now, there's no roach speed or anything, so I'm actually wondering if she even canceled it. She's going to get ready to go push in towards this third base, though.
Yeah, that would be a bad angle for her to try to push into, especially the corrosive biles hitting those banelings. Huge amounts of damage.
Yeah, absolutely devastating amounts of force. And look at that concave by Nerchio.
That's it. GG.
GG by him.
Nicely done. Nerchio, really, especially on that map, played a lot better. I like the fact that he not only got his roaches out, that was only part of it, but that he got the right tech out. He had better everything, and Scarlett getting a lot of those banelings early on just, you know,
Putting up a great
everybody
fight.
else is getting upgrades. They're getting banelings. If you're going to use those banelings, you can use it later. Anyways, congrats. Oh. Scarlett.
Yeah, big congratulations to Nerchio. Just a phenomenal series, really. I love how back and forth the first few games were. That last map, she just committed so hard to trying to just kill him off of that hatchery tag. I think even towards the end, like, she canceled the lair. She's like, all right, that's it. Just make roaches, make ravagers. I'm too far behind. I just got to
That's
pray.
a lot of ZvZ. I mean, if you're both teching, sometimes in different directions, sometimes in the same direction, and then you realize you're behind, you kind of got to do some kind of special timing attack because, especially when you have players at this level, if one's behind, there's not always a lot of ways to catch up.
Yeah, and ZvZ comes down to more than just resources, you know. It's your larva, it's everything else that you're trying to do, and that lair tech is a key moment. Nerchio did, you know, what the standard thing to do would be, which is just try to hold on, tech up, use your tech to get the advantage, even though maybe Scarlett has map control with all those Zerglings. But on Coral Carnage Knockout, map control isn't even as important because the center of the map is useless. There's no expansions that you're going to take there.
Yeah, it's like a bunch. It's like you're traveling through tubes, like different valves, and you can kind of spit out on one side of the map and attack somewhere else. So this was the aftermath of, I think, possibly the improper tech here from Scarlett. And of course, to even attack into this location, if we just look at how this sort of acts like a funnel where the roaches in the back can't do damage, those corrosive biles killed, I think, half the banelings there as well.
Yeah, I mean, that fight started at even army supply, and it ended with Nerchio not even dropping. Like, it started was like 81 versus 81. At the end, it's 82 versus 41.
Yeah.
So,
well, congratulations to Nerchio. Smix, how's Nerchio doing?
Well, Nerchio is on stage and ready. Congratulations, you reached the top 8 for the 3rd time already this year. I mean, that is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I always aim for consistency, and I hope it will work. That I can get to BlizzCon.
Well, you're well on your way with reaching that top 8 here, and this series against Scarlett was... Cheers to Scarlett as well. The French crowd obviously loves her, but with the series against Scarlett, it was a very, very action-packed series, back and forth. Headed into this match, obviously, I know that her being your former teammate, you probably have a good sense of her style. So as you came into the series, did that affect how you prepared against her at all?
Yeah, definitely, because like if you play versus Elaser, he's more like a Ravager guy, but I was pretty sure that Scarlett will never do like Ravager Ling. She only did that in the last game, but that was only because she was already behind. So yeah, I could, for example, play greedy on Dusk Towers because I was almost sure that she is not gonna all-in.
And speaking of the other maps as well, I'm just going to pinpoint Invader because it was a really exciting map. That started out with you having a Nidus Ling attack, and then she countered. But it just seemed like you took really great advantage of how mobile your army was. So can you just walk us through that map in general?
Actually, I could imagine this in my mind before going into this map that it's gonna go that way. I was actually expecting her to play Mira. I wanted to play the Lings, then I wanted to counter with Nidus, but it didn't work so well. I actually didn't expect roaches at all. But even though I was losing a lot, like when she attacked with a lot of roaches, I knew I'm just fine because my upgrades were good, and then I could play Mira as well.
Well, your next opponent is going to be Neeb, and he has been looking so on fire lately. He had a grand final finish at Austin last week, and here he just defeated Hydra, which is obviously Hydra was one of the favorites at this tournament. So headed into that matchup, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's gonna be interesting, but Neeb played a lot against Hydra already, so maybe he figured him out. But against me, we didn't play that much except maybe European ladder and like best of one online. So I think it will be 50-50 because I prepared mostly for ZvZ. But yeah, I think it's gonna go well for me.
All right, then, well, congratulations again on moving on to the top 8. Of course, we have one more round of 16 match coming up after the break. It will be Aiguz versus Violet.